Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. We are back. I'm Steven Conway. With me again, Jeremy Finestone. We're contributors to the Fight Game Media Network. And we are back with New Japan action again. A little bit of a quiet January in some senses, but we're back with the road to New Beginning and a couple of New Beginning shows in Sapporo, Jeremy. And I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. I watched these two shows and had a terrific time. There was some really good stuff. And did you enjoy it as much as I did?
Dude, I had people telling me about these shows before I ever had a chance to catch it. It caught me on my work schedule, so I wasn't able to watch it live. But I was having people like literally reaching out to me like, "Wow, these shows are really good," and I was like, "Hot damn! Like these must be something." And then I sat down and watched it. And I'm like, "Yeah, these shows are fire. These were really good shows."
Yeah, and we have two to talk about. We're going to go over each one of them and then get into this big-time Osaka show coming up. And this one's a monster. This is really a loaded card they have coming up on the 11th, so we're going to preview that. Also going to talk about Kota Ibushi. Have news about him. We have Fantastica Mania coming up. There's some news about New Japan Strong in Los Angeles we're going to get into. So lots to talk about as always, but we wanted to start with these shows in Hokkaido, part of the Sapporo area. And these were two shows they had ran back-to-back in the same building and drew pretty well each night. And yeah, we're just going to go through them. So the first one was on the 4th there in front of 3,073 people. And the main event of this one, which we're going to get to here in a while, was Tetsuya Naito and Shota Umino. Jeremy, I thought, and then the next night, it was Hiromu Takahashi and Yo for the junior heavyweight title. Thought it was intriguing that New Japan is putting a couple of people in main event spots that maybe they wouldn't have not too long ago. I mean, Shota Umino certainly is just back from excursion, so he's not somebody that would have been in the main event mix, say, a year ago. But I also think if you went back a year and said that Yo was going to be in the main event of a New Beginning show and it was going to work out as well as it did, I think we'd have been very pleasantly surprised. So New Japan showing a little bit of faith in putting some people on. Of course, Hiromu Takahashi and Tetsuya Naito were in there. So they had a little bit of a security blanket there with some of their biggest stars. But nevertheless, Yo, Shota Umino, main event, and it didn't feel out of place to me.
The card order has been really curious and fresh. You know, like you had the Will Ospreay and Taichi match, like 3rd from the top of the card, I think that night, maybe 2nd. They had the title match, the junior heavyweight tag match, which blew everything out of the water. I felt like that night it was like machine gun fire wrestling that was just lit me up and got me excited for the rest of the night that night. But yeah, it was just everything feels fresh. Everything feels like the cheering is back. You know, like there's a healthy roster. The directions just kind of seem intriguing, if not outright, it's not predictable and it's not unpredictable, but it's entertaining. Like it's keeping your interest with these matchups. And, it feels like springtime in New Japan, the New Beginning.
yeah, and it does feel like that. We're even seeing a young lion get a mini push. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Kosei Fujita and it's a mini push. They're being careful with it and they're taking it one step at a time. But we are seeing some new faces toward the top and in the mix, which is very pleasant to see. So. In fact, there was a young lion, of course, to start off this one, Oscar Loibe and Great-O-Khan. Great-O-Khan beat him. Loibe has good fire. It's very early in his career, but, Great-O-Khan, obviously this is going to be, a win for O-Khan, and it exactly was. He can't do tags at the moment. Jeff Cobb and Aaron Henare not there. Aaron Henare was in Australia doing the Tamashii shows, but O-Khan getting a win here, and Loibe, too early to tell exactly what he's got, but no bad sign so far.
I thought this was the best singles match I've ever seen Loibe have. I think O-Khan did a lot of heavy lifting, but there was something in his presentation tonight that I felt like I hadn't seen before. Like a hunger, a fire, whatever you want to call it. Like it was very encouraging. And a lot of attention has been put on Oleg Boltin, recently because of his presentation at Wrestle Kingdom. But don't sleep on this guy. Oscar Uebe is... There's potential there, and I feel like there's soon going to be gaps in the roster that he would fit in very well. So I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. So after that, we went into a 6-man tag, which is really to set up for Osaka, and it was kind of a 2-night story they did in Sapporo, which was interesting to watch. Minoru Suzuki, El Desperado, Ren Narita, and Ryohei Oiwa on this night faced the House of Torture. It's Evil, Yujiro Takahashi, Sho, and the ill-fated Dick Togo. So in this one, it was, Bullet Club are claiming that they have nothing left to prove, Jeremy. They have no reason to even bring the belts to the arena anymore. They're retiring the never open weight 6-man titles. Never again will anyone approach them, which, is just screaming out that a title match is coming soon, of course. And but the intrigue came with Ren Narita and Minoru Suzuki's interactions. Narita, remembering probably having PTSD from the way he was treated by Minoru Suzuki as a young lion in the storyline, not wanting to trust the new babyface cuddly version of Minoru Suzuki, as cuddly as a cactus gets anyway, and wasn't trusting him, didn't even want to tag out to him. And so there was all this little tension on the babyface side. Suzuki had I enjoyed this, where he, for some reason, he just got sick and tired of the House of Torture's cheating and just flipped out at ringside, throwing chairs around, kicking things, just going and just being Suzuki. And you could tell he's enjoying this process here. He's having fun with this story. But in the end, it was a win for the baby faces. They had Narita tapping out Togo in this case, and he and Suzuki starting to build a little bit of mutual respect. It wasn't quite there yet. We'll leave that carrot hanging in front of the fans for a little bit. What'd you think of this?
I've liked where this is going, and I think right at New Year Dash, you and I talked about exactly where this was going, and we are headed predictably to that direction.
Yeah.
However, predictable does not mean unenjoyable. Predictable, when done well, makes you savor what's coming along. They have spent every event in the Road to New Beginning and New Year Dash building this alliance, slowly curating their relationship to trusting. If you're watching the backstage stuff, which I've been doing, they're really building it there as well. So this feels like an earned payoff with these three, and that's the core of this foursome. They flipped out Oiwa the next night for I think Yuto Nakashita. That might
Nakashima,
be
yeah.
Nakashima. Right. And but the story's there. It's Narita, Desperado, and Minoru Suzuki, the serious three amigos. It's time for them to whip some ass.
It's interesting too, because of course the entire point of this version of Ren Narita is that he is almost a tribute act to Katsuyori Shibata. He's behaving exactly like Shibata did, his mentor, and he's acting like him, wrestling like him, dressing like him, his hair's like him.
Calling him the son of Strong Style.
Son of Strong Style.
Yeah.
And when Shibata returned to New Japan after time away, there were several big matches and storylines where Hiroshi Tanahashi and Shinsuke Nakamura resented him for leaving. During the tough times when New Japan wasn't drawing well, he left. And this is storyline. There were a lot of reasons why Shibata left for a while and then came back. But the whole thing about that return storyline was that they were all eyeing him very warily, and he had to earn his way back in. Shibata, being Shibata, never begged or asked for anything. He just had those matches, and they were hard-hitting, great matches. And in the end, they begrudgingly respected him and brought him back. It was Hirooki Goto who agreed to team with Shibata because they had a relationship going back before they were even in professional wrestling. They were either rivals or they were teammates in amateur wrestling, all this stuff.
Frenemies. Very
deep story that went a long time. Shibata's return took a while for him to be storyline accepted back into the fold. So Narita not trusting anybody, being wary of everyone, fits that mold as well, because again, Shibata never went up to say, please accept me back. That's not Shibata. he just fought his way back in. And now Narita is fighting his way through House of Torture, and he and Suzuki are earning each other's respect. So it's a story that can help bring out that side of Narita, saying that this really is a Shibata type who is going to confront all of these things head on. It's going to take a lot to get him to respect anybody, because he considers himself the toughest. So it's been entertaining, and it continued on the next night, which we'll get to later.
The thing that I do like is that they are treating Red Narita as an equal that they think will help them accomplish their goal, rather than the kid that they're bringing along because they think they can teach him something. There's a presentation there, and it's very casual, it's very subtle, but it's smartly done in a way that Narita is one of the boys, as it will, as opposed to getting initiated. Like they're trying to talk him into this because they think that like he can add something to what they're all doing. Like they can all help each other, rather than like, come with me and I will show you the way, which is, the mentor-student relationship. This isn't that.
It's a great contrast to that mentor-student relationship, which we are seeing in another storyline that involves the next match on the card. It was TMDK, Zack Sabre Jr., and Mike Nicholls, Shane Haste, and Kosei Fujita, who is playing the role of that young lion brought into the fold that you just mentioned right there, that Narita is not doing. So you have these two different things going on, and they defeated the group from Chaos. That's Goto, Ishii, Yoshihashi, and Yuto Nakashima in the next match. 11 minutes, 28 seconds. It was very good. It's all preview stuff, right? Because Bishamon, Goto, and Yoshihashi were going to defend the IWGP Tag Team titles against Nicholls and Haste. Ishii, part of this match, was going to be facing Zack Sabre Jr. for the TV title the next night. And then he had the Nakashima, Fujita, one young lion in a faction, one not. So there's all these little dynamics going on across the ring from one another. Zack is still teaching Fujita how to put on holds during the match in the ring, which I always find entertaining. I always think that's fun. And in the end, Fujita continued his mini push. He tapped out Nakashima. Now he's not beating main roster guys. He's beating young lions, but they're making a point to lift Fujita up, partly to push TMDK, partly to just show that Zack Sabre Jr.'s advice works, and to put over Zack's technical ability and know-how that he's teaching this young lion and helping his career progress. Entertaining match, but really this one was to set up things to come the next night.
He's still a young lion, but he's like a tier above, like a normal young lion. Like he's like a young lion with exclusive club perks. As well. No, you pretty much covered the most of it. This is all just build up and getting ready to the next stuff, just kind of like what they were doing with the next match. Go for it.
Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tama Tonga, Hikuleo, and Master Wato face the Bullet Club. That's Jay White, Kenta, Taiji Ishimori, and El Phantasmo. Again, these are basically 4 singles matches that were thrown in with baby faces on one side of a tag, heels on the other side of the tag. Good preview work, very crisp. They understood that now is not the time to pull out all the stops. One thing I noticed, Jay White working very hard to put over Hikuleo's strength. And anytime Hikuleo hits him, lifts him, or anything, Jay sells the living hell out of it.
Bro, Jay is doing double the work to build that match.
You can tell it means something to him, and I think I understand. I think I put together. Well, hey, Wato hits a bridge and a roll up on Ishimori, and the idea, and for the pin, by the way, Wato beat Ishimori. The idea here is that Ishimori can't quite get past this guy. He's a little pest. He's just a little. It seems like every time he thinks he's got him, he gets rolled up and pinned by him. It's annoying the living hell out of Taiji Ishimori.
Just can't quite put him away. You still got a winning record against him, 2-1, but it's not the dominant gotcha record that you want to think it is, and it pisses him off. And it's a great little story.
Yeah.
Great little story.
Up next, we had LIJ. They were in there with this group was Takagi, Sanada, Hiromu Takahashi, and Bushi. And they defeated the Chaos and Hantai team of Kazuchika Okada, Toru Yano, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Yo. More previews here. Of course, Yo and Hiromu main eventing the following night. You have, Shingo and Okada will main event in Osaka against each other for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. So there are a couple of layers here. The Okada Shingo stuff was terrific, and there's no doubt that match is going to be wonderful. Those two guys work very well together. Can't wait for it. And Yo and Hiromu brawled a little bit after, and Hiromu had some work to do. Jeremy did need to convince some people that Yo was a threat. We've talked a little bit about how Yo does not lack in talent, but maybe in charisma. We felt that having Lio Rush as his partner helped because he could be the fire in that team right there. But here he's solo. Lio Rush isn't here. And Hiromu worked very hard here doing post-match brawls with Yo just to show that there's a little bit of heat. Of course, they're doing this thing where Taguchi is giving him this book on instructions on how to defeat Hiromu. I don't think anyone takes that particularly seriously, although they are having a little bit of fun with the prop itself, this giant notebook that he carries around with, oh, this is how you beat the guy. But it's a matter of Hiromu just trying to make everyone think that Yo is a legitimate threat now. And they ended up having a match where a couple of times I thought maybe so, which we'll get to. But a little preview work here, but I thought it was effective.
Yeah, I again, you covered most of the main points. I get the distinct sense with Yo that it's a little bit like Sho, who there were some reports that he was just like kind of unhappy with what he was doing and just kind of stagnating. And if the same was the case with Yo, well, he's got his opportunity, so he's doing the work to give people the idea that this is a credible, main event junior heavyweight that they are trying to sell to us for Chaos. Like, he really should be on the marquee if he is like the junior heavy singles. Like, he needs to be presented and he needs to take that step. And right now it feels like he's doing the work because he certainly impressed the hell out of me on the last couple of nights. And you're right, Takahashi, if the champion again, he's got to be making all these guys look good. So if he's not, then maybe he needs to be going up to the heavyweight level himself. But so far so good, everything's working out well, but there's stuff to watch out for.
We're going to talk about with the next match how important this is for Yo, because he's in a bit of a perilous spot, I think, in a couple of ways. So up next, we had the junior heavyweight tag team title match. You mentioned this thing earlier. Go out of your way to watch this one. What a terrific match this was. It was Francesco Akira and TJP, the champions from the United Empire faction, taking on Kanemaru and Douki, who are with the Just Four Guys group with Takamichinoku and Taichi. This went 18 minutes and 24 seconds. It felt like 5. It breezed through, and it was the story of Kanemaru, who has been wrestling longer than Francesco Akira has been alive. My favorite little stat from that one: 26 years for Kanemaru, 24 years on the planet for Francesco Akira, and he worked over TJP's knee, and he had 20 different ways of working on that knee. That's all using all of his experience right there. And TJP was terrific in his selling in this match. He really was. And it was all to set up, I think, Akira, and who stepped up and did some great stuff with Douki in this. Talk to me about this one, what you saw, how it made you feel, because this is a thriller.
It really had a lot to do with Just Four Guys elevating themselves to be contenders, because this was a match a lot of people looked past, frankly speaking. They didn't think that these two guys were really Douki and Yoshinobu Kanemaru were really going to present a threat. And if you've been paying attention to New Year Dash and the Road to New Beginnings, you've been kind of noticing that Douki and Kanemaru have kind of, they got a little bit of spring in their step. They're feeling motivated right now. Yeah. They have a fresh new gimmick to some extent, and they're making the best of it. I was thinking that there were other matches that could potentially have upset written around them, but United Empire is so strong that I kind of looked past these two as contenders that could win the titles and move forward. With that said, it was a tremendous match. High speed, Kanemaru with the top rope. I think it was a senton. Maybe it was a moonsault.
It was a moonsault.
But him pulling the babyface maneuvers, chef's kiss, man. Like there was just stuff that you didn't see in a New Japan match, and it gave you the impression that these are fresh matchups. The faces and the heels aren't who they used to be anymore. And yeah, you would get something like this in the Best of the Super Junior Tag League or the Super Junior Tag League. I believe we did have this match, but this just felt like a different gear, man. Just felt like a different, like higher level gear. They were all motivated to do something special, and I feel like they did. Like kept it up from Wrestle Kingdom.
These two did meet in the junior heavyweight tournament. They're the junior heavyweight tag league, and that was the win for Douki and Kanemaru, the upset that allowed for someone else to win the whole thing. Akira and TJP, they did manage to get the upset victory there, which led to this little mini push where Douki was getting a lot of pinfalls, including several in multi-man matches with Akira, just setting it up that, oh boy, he's got his number. He's got his number. And then in the end, it was Francesco Akira that made the late rally to keep the titles because TJP's knee had been worked over so effectively that his knee collapsed during some of their big moves, the Catch 2-2's big moves. So just
I think he came in actually a little bit hurt, and they just kind of worked that whole tweak knee into the story, which is great.
Yeah, it really was good. And, in the end, anyone that watches this show, I've been banging the drum for Douki for a long time. I think the guy's really good. Part of it just hits me in the heart because he's a Lucha Libre guy, and I enjoy Lucha. But
I've been banging the drum for Catch 22, so it was a match made in heaven.
It really was, and it really paid off. And I think we're going to be seeing more from Douki. I think you're starting to see that New Japan's believing in the guy a little bit. They're starting to see some things in him too. I don't think
if they're body guys, they got to go after Douki.
Yeah, I know. He's got to get rid of that shirt, man. The guy's got too good of a build. Woo. Yeah, I know it. Next one was a special singles match, and it was Will Ospreay and Taichi, who did a very interesting thing here, Jeremy. They just decided, and it was noted by many people, that they decided to do Misawa versus Kawada. And Kawada, of course, is one of Taichi's mentors, heroes. And Toshiaki Kawada and Mitsuharu Misawa, two of the four pillars of heaven from All Japan Pro Wrestling. And they had some of the greatest singles matches ever. I still think that there's one clash between those two that is the best match I've ever seen. It was from 1994, went 35 minutes. And I still believe it's the best match I've ever seen. But they had a bunch of them, and all their matches were classics. And they just kept doing big moves from those matches in this one. I don't know if they've just been watching tapes or they just always wanted to do something like this, but there was a lot of it. And it's very different from a normal Will Ospreay match, although he did, toward the end of the match, 22 minutes, 47 seconds, start to bring out things like Os Cutters and the attempts at Stormbreakers and Hidden Blades and things. But totally worth mentioning here, Taichi blocked a super Os Cutter, the one where he kind of bounces up to the top rope, seemingly effortlessly. The man has springs where his legs are supposed to be. Catches him, brought him into what looked like a power bomb. Then Will tries to turn that into a Hurricane Rana. He blocks it and then drops Will right on his head. That was the key move from a Tokyo Dome match that Kawada and Misawa had. And it was this moment where they had built this up so beautiful, Jeremy, where one of Kawada's big finishers was a powerbomb. So then he would get Misawa with the powerbomb. Then Misawa would turn that powerbomb into the Hurricane Rana. And then all of a sudden, now he was having trouble hitting his finisher because he had a counter for it. Well, this time he blocks the counter and dropped the guy in a sickening way on his head. And that was in the Dome, and it led to Kawada's first pinfall win in a singles match over Misawa. If you go back and watch that match, I wish I could remember what year it was from, like 96 or something, 97. There were people literally just jumping up and down and dancing in the aisles for Kawada to finally get that win. He finally climbed that mountain. And it was a very big special moment. They brought it back for this match. So props to them for the throwback there. But what did you think of this one? As it really picked up? It was always good, but this thing really picked up the last couple minutes.
I thought it was picking up the whole time. Like they were wailing on each other from the get-go, and they deserved the night off the next night, which they didn't get. So I was just gonna say that. Taichi has kind of had this dogged reputation that he doesn't work very hard in the ring.
It hasn't been true for a long time, but you're right.
It has not been true for a long time. He is just like, when it's time for him to do his thing, he's doing it, man. Like, he is great. And I kind of thought when I was looking at this match, like, if there was an upset special, a time for Will to like lose before on his journey going into Wrestle Kingdom next year, and a time to really just give Taichi a big win, this would have been it. In a lot of ways, like, it would have just kind of put Taichi as a threat, a next level threat, while helping with Will Ospreay's story artistically. Got to hit the bottom before you get back to the top, kind of thing. But they didn't. They have kept Will strong. So, like, this is a blueprint for the rest of the year. It's like, Will Ospreay will rarely lose this year. He will rarely lose. And when he does, it's going to be a big deal, or it's going to lead to another match. I highly predict it's going to be one of my like banner predictions of the year that he's going to come close, but not all the way in the New Japan Cup. And that's going to be a feud for him for a little bit of a time. Like, all the opportunities for him to get a title shot before the G1 will either have him foiled or lost in some way, shape, or form. And that's going to be the journey for him, is that those losses for him are going to be few and far between, but they will be cataclysmic when they are.
I'm very curious also to see what they're doing with Taichi, because he is very, very talented. And there's an interesting thing with him where, because of his elaborate ring outfit, his entrance, his frilly type of look and personality, it lends itself to what he does really well, which is actually those kind of Bushido matches where, you're doing hard kicks and chops and punches. And because he has that kind of, it's not flamboyant, but extravagant type of presentation to him, it really hooks in and it connects when he portrays himself as digging down deep. So when he faces a guy like Ishii, or a bruiser like Goto, or something like this with Will, where they're chopping the living hell out of each other and kicking the hell out of each other, it's a nice contrast. And Taichi does it very, very well, where you see the guy like doing the silly lip syncing, and he's walking out with when Miho Abe is there, she's a former Miss Universe pageant contestant, for the love of God, just doesn't seem like a tough guy. That's part of the point. He pulls the snap away pants off, and he's in his little trunks, and but when he digs down deep, it connects, because it looks like a contrast. Okay, this guy is throwing all that stuff away, and he's going to fight. And so it's very effective for him. Just 4 guys, his post-Suzuki-gun faction, which is made up of former Suzuki-gun guys, is not winning a lot of matches. And they went over these 2 nights in Sapporo. It's being mentioned in the post-match comments. I wonder if there is something afoot where this is a temporary thing, and that Taichi is eventually going to break away from this and say, okay, I have to re-examine everything here. And then we might be seeing Taichi 3.0 maybe this year. That's just a thought from me, because it seems to be a point that these guys aren't winning much.
I think there's a lot of transitional stables right now, factions. I think a lot of stuff is in feud, because I kind of think Geto didn't want to just shuffle everything at once between like 5 shows. And just say everybody's changing, and like all of a sudden you have a thing like he's changing things gradually and giving people motivations and reasons why they're doing this, that, or the other. They have talked about in the backstage, United Empire is probably going to add a Stardom member to their whole thing. So there is stuff afoot where, we can start taking into account maybe Stardom talent, other companies. You got to think back to when Taichi had the tag match with at the Historic X-Over, kind of the alignment between the Stardom and the Suzuki Gun at the time. Maybe there's smoke to that fire. Maybe I don't remember who it was that he partnered with, but there was a lot of alignment there. It felt like the cooperation was more than just a match, if it will.
I believe he was with Tam Nakano and Natsupoi. I think that.
Yeah. So, if you start incorporating Stardom to some of these factions, maybe they're going to be filling out some of these factions with female talent instead. It could be something new, it's 2023 and they're going for it. So right now, I think we're all in transitional phase with some of these things. Just 4 guys is not a marketable stable It feels like something that you come up with on the cork board and say, that's a placeholder for now. And just placeholder. I'm with you.
Up next was the main event. This is a special singles match. Tetsuya Naito and Shota Umino. Now, Umino is getting a big push here. They are even doing things in preview tags. He's getting his own entrance instead of just coming out with his whole team. You know, he gets his own entrance where he walks through the crowd. He's doing the Bret Hart thing where he gives away something to a very young fan in the stands. I mean, they are all in on this dude as a babyface. I think he showed up in this match with Naito. I thought it was terrific. Yes, Naito beat him. And Naito's headlining the Tokyo Dome show with Keiji Muto. And so I think he's going to be kept strong. Yes, I know that the Muto match is not a New Japan show, but New Japan isn't going to send a weak guy in there, and they protect Naito anyway. So I don't have a problem with him winning this thing, and I had a problem, or I did not have a problem with Naito winning. I mean, especially because they have the New Japan Cup, and I'm saying right now, like I did 2 weeks ago, Shota Umino is at least going to make the semifinals of the New Japan Cup. I have a very strong
probably
about this. And I know that you know, this match was worked kind of at a slow pace, but Naito's perfect for that because Naito works at a slow pace anyway. So this had a nice little main event style to it. They hit all the big moves, but the story was at first that Shota was in danger of being, as they say, run out of the gym, as Kevin and Chris like to say on the commentary. And that they drew comparisons to a match, I guess, in 2012 between Naito and Keiji Muto, where Naito was the young guy, the young upstart. He was still the Stardust genius, Tetsuya Naito, which if you want to see something just kind of mind-boggling, go back and watch Naito from that era. It's like, wow, that's the same guy. But he was not booked at the level of Muto. The story of that match was that Naito wasn't ready for the challenge that he laid out. So he got run out of the gym. And that was what they were threatening to do with Umino earlier, but then he just kept coming back and kept firing up. And it was one of those things where he lost valiantly, having pushed the guy as far as he could. And he did, it ended up being, took 2 Destinos in there. You know, he had a Death Rider that was countered into, he just kept firing up. He did get the Death Rider. He tried it again, got it into a Destino for 2. There was a strange move they did. It took 2 tries, but he got him up into a DDT where Naito's knees were up on his hips, so he was a little more compact, and dropped him on his head there. Please be careful doing that one in the future. Shota's got a flipping neck breaker move that looks pretty good. So, you know, is it his time? No, not yet. But I think Umino at least showed that he is on the way to playing in that league. That was my impression.
They have given Shota matches with Will Ospreay and Tetsuya Naito almost exclusively for the last 4 months. He has been given the cream of the crop to get brought up to speed. And frankly speaking, it's shown. Like he has done the work, and he has improved dramatically even from the time that he has returned from excursion back in October it was. Mm-hmm. With that said, I still think there's something missing with him, and I think turning him heel might actually be the best thing for him. People are not really ready to accept him as the young babyface right now, and I can't put my finger on what it is. Even still, when you watch him wrestle, he's wrestling aggressively like he's hungry to win, which makes me think that is a better style for him to wrestle as a heel.
Well, and part of this is by design, because keep in mind, Goto knows that he's not going to be cheered over Tetsuya Naito, no matter what he is.
Or Will.
Or Will, even for that matter. Yeah, you're right. And especially going forward now with Will on the chase to get back to Kenny Omega. You know, it's so they have booked him with people that are going to, you know, they're making him earn it. You know, it's the whole thing. They didn't just set him up there with House of Torture or something. If they had him feud with Evil, then everyone would be on Shota's side. Goto knows that. Goto's the New Japan booker. Again, we want to make sure we say that for folks that are aware. And so they're doing something here where part of this story is that Umino has to win the fans over. They need another time. So So we will head on now to Hokkaido on the next day, the 5th, and we're going to get through the undercard here pretty quick. Because it was mostly just previews, like we mentioned before.
Sure.
3,316, and about 300 more people here the second night. First one was the United Empire defeating the just 4 guys. So that was Ospreay, Great-O-Khan, Akira, and TJP back in the ring against Taichi, Kanemaru, Douki, and Taka Michinoku. Of course, Taka Michinoku took the loss there with Will Ospreay. That was where they hinted at perhaps just 4 guys isn't going to be the long-term thing. Mm-hmm. Then we had Minoru Suzuki, El Desperado, and Ren Narita with Nakashima this time, taking on House of Torture. Once again, this time they went the next chapter here. There were no clashes between Suzuki and Narita. House of Torture had annoyed all of them enough that they were finding common
on the same
ground.
page.
Yes, and afterwards, Suzuki offered the hand after Narita tapped out Yujiro Takahashi, which was important because now he had beaten one of the title holders, not Dick Togo. Offered his hand, Narita took it, and took it with gusto. And so now these 3 are united. They want to face House of Torture. They want to face them for the tag team titles, the never open weight 6-man titles, and they were met with a resounding hell no from a House of Torture for doing it. And they just said, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're doing it. Which means what, Jeremy? They're doing it.
It's happening. Oh, this is happening.
All right.
And I'm excited for it. In all honesty, this was the blueprint that we said was happening from New Year Dash. That like, okay, they're dusting off the never open weight 6-man title. So, and this is a great feud to do it with.
I'm very curious about this, though, because, and they can have these titles go dormant for a while. They've basically done it with House of Torture, but Suzuki is going to tour the United States again. So he's going to be gone for a decent stretch at some point in 2023 and not too far from now. So I'm curious to whether or not they're going to win this thing, because if he weren't doing the tour and hitting all these dates in the U.S., I'd say, well, of course they're going to win the 6-man tag team titles. But I kind of want it planted the seed of doubt. I still think they should and can. Yeah, let's see that he just announced that he was doing it. He didn't really have dates on it. That was just off his Instagram that I saw. Right?
Oh, interesting. During the New Japan Cup and those other guys got bounced out of the tournament, they could all, that kind of makes me think that they're not going to win the titles. But who knows? They can dust them off and.
But if he's going to be gone during Fantastica Mania and if Suzuki's not working the New Japan Cup, then that could those titles,
New Japan Cup.
Yeah, those titles don't have to be part of that. They don't have to be on the cards during all that. So it could happen.
There's a window of time all the way through like April that those titles, they can feud and then he can come to state with the belt. I don't know. It feels like all the possibilities are open because, immediately discounting a talent with the title belt coming to another promotion, it happens more and more now. So it'd be cool if it happens.
Bullet Club, Kenta and Taiji Ishimori defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi and Master Wato in match number 3. This is another preview there between 2 singles matches coming up. This time Ishimori won by throwing Wato into the exposed turnbuckle. And those buckles tend to be exposed during House of Torture matches. And then he put the feet on the ropes on top of it. So, part of the storyline there, yes, he did get the win, but there's a hint of desperation to it that that Wato was really under Ishimori's skin.
Leading up to the 11th.
Special matches. Tama Tonga, Hikuleo. Speaking of one that's leading up to some big matches on the 11th, Tama Tonga, Hikuleo, and Jado defeating Bullet Club, Jay White, El Phantasmo, and Goto. Jado tapping out Goto. Which was an interesting finish, I thought, considering all the people involved in this.
Completely inconsequential to any other finish going into the 11th.
I know. And we're going to talk about this going into the 11th. Interesting twist is that there have been words bandied about that if Hikuleo has to go, Jado goes. And if Jay goes, Goto has to go, which is intriguing to me. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Again, Jay is just putting over Hikuleo every chance he gets. And we'll talk about how we think that one's going to turn out. After the match, El Phantasmo, who's challenging Tama Tonga for the never open weight singles title, clocked him with the belt there just to give that a little extra sauce going into it. But, ELP and Tama Tonga might not have the juice that some of the other matchups have on that show. But if ELP cuts down on the comedy and just wrestles, then it's probably going to be really good.
I have my thoughts about that whole how everything's going to go past the 11th, and we'll get past there. But this match didn't feel like a whole lot other than just, hey, show up for the 11th because we're gonna answer all your questions then. And they're doing their best to tease that El Phantasmo is somewhat ready to star scream his leadership role for Megatron. If that opportunity comes around, I think that tease is deliberate, but I also feel like it's kind of meant to throw you off the scent a little bit. So we shall see how that all goes.
The next one is another match that it was maybe not of the most consequence. You had, again, previewing the main event next time, Kazuchika Okada, Toru Yano, Shota Umino, and Ryusuke Taguchi against Naito, Shingo Takagi, Sanada, and Bushi. Okada beat Sanada with the Rainmaker here, which I also thought was interesting, and we're going to get to that because in the post-match comments, Sanada was basically despondent. And just saying that he's at a crossroads in his career that he hasn't felt before. I think that's fascinating because, we've talked a lot about how they seem to lack a little bit of focus for Shingo Takagi. He's over here with the KOPW and he's over here in this match with Okada, but we don't expect him to win. And again, we joked about how, well, being lost in the main event isn't the worst problem in the world. Sanada seems really lost. He's just in these he doesn't have a tag team partner right now, really a heavyweight tag team partner. He is a little bit lost in the mix right here. So my thought on this one, Jeremy, is Sanada a New Japan Cup contender? Because usually when people reach their bottom and openly acknowledge that they're at their bottom, they're about to make a big run. Is this a guy that can make a run in the Cup?
He can. But
okay.
I have been snake bit by believing in Sanada in the past. If he was my G1, he's going all the way. The year he lost to Kota Ibushi, and I felt like that was indicative of his ceiling at New Japan, and he was never going to be one of the top guys. So I feel like this is again one of those gradual changes in the air because there's a lot of dance partners at the top of LIJ, a lot of main event talent potentially that is all kind of taking the same airspace with Shingo Takagi and Naito. And if you want to put Sanada kind of in that like atmosphere as well, it's like something's got to give, man. It already feels like it has to give in that faction as it is. You got Naito doing Tokyo Dome at for Noah, with Keiji Muto to just kind of give him like that prestige event that they all want, and they got to make him happy somehow. So they're manufacturing opportunities for these guys to be on the top. So Sanada, if they're going to do something, it has to be drastic. It has to be evil House of Torture drastic, but done better.
Well, we'll see how that turns out. It does seem like they have something in mind because he's just being a little too demonstrative about being unhappy with his recent performances. And again, that's all in character. So,
would you be excited if Sanada won the New Japan Cup?
Yeah, I mean, it's been Zack Sabre Jr.'s event for the last couple of years, and Zack, I think, is with the TV title doesn't need it the way he did before. Sanada might be exactly the kind of guy that could benefit from that push of running the gauntlet, having good matches against multiple opponents, and coming out of it on top. And I think he's one of the guys that it could really help with Shota being another one. But
with kind of Naito getting a bunch of opportunities at the title and Takagi going to have opportunities at the title, and if you want to keep Will away from the title, there aren't a whole lot of other people in that upper echelon that you could put and really create credibility. So, the more you tell me about it, the more I'm feeling, maybe Sanada is the guy.
Maybe so. Up next, we had an IWGP Tag Team title match. Bishamon, Hirooki Goto, and Yoshi-Hashi in their first defense after winning the titles from FTR at the Tokyo Dome, facing TMDK, Mikey, Nicholls, and Shane Haste. Not much chance of this one being anything but terrific, and it was. I love this one. It was fast-paced. They worked hard, 15 minutes and 30 seconds, and you could tell that everybody was feeling their cardio. We're not going to worry about it. We're going to go quick. And They tried there were some really cool sequences in this one, like Bishamon trying the GTR, which was reversed into a cutter on Goto off of Nicholls' shoulders for a near fall. That was fun to watch. Mikey Nicholls hit a hell of a Mikey bomb for a very close 2 count in this one. He was feeling it. You could tell that Shane Haste and Mikey Nicholls knew that this was a big match for him, and they really stood up. A terrific lariat battle between Nicholls and Yoshi-Hashi, which Nicholls won. Got the best of him when they were clotheslining the hell out of each other, and then he charged Yoshi-Hashi to finish him off. Yoshi ducks, and he crashes right into a Hirooki Goto clothesline and loses his head, sadly. Elevated GTR onto Nicholls into the Shoto which is their double team GTR for the win. Just 4 terrific wrestlers, 2 terrific teams. I had a great time for this one.
I'm going to say something that might break your heart, and I apologize in advance for saying it.
Yes.
I think this was a better matchup for Bishamon than their match with FTR at the Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, it was. You're right. And it was given a little bit more space. Bit more space to breathe. Yeah.
It had the opportunity. And when I say that, I have to take into consideration all the different factors that come into play. The scheduling of the Wrestle Kingdom and the pacing and the timing of all the matches. This had time to breathe. They built it differently.
And you mentioned immediately also, by the way, his body was beat to crap.
Yeah.
For that Wrestle Kingdom match. And Haste and Nicholls came in prime shape.
But that's a good indicator to the quality of this match and the caliber of what we're watching, because a lot of people watch Wrestle Kingdom and not as many people are watching this show. So if you're watching it and you're like, but FTR is not wrestling this match, you're like, well, I got news for you. This is a better match than the one that you might have seen at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah. It was really good. And of course it's a win for Bishamon. And I know you felt that TMDK might win these titles right here.
Yes.
I thought that they wouldn't load up TMDK with all the belts like right away. And I felt like Zack was going to defend against Ishii just because establishing a new title and then having someone beat him for it in the first defense didn't seem like ghetto booking. Not that people wouldn't do that in some companies, but that doesn't feel like New Japan's style. So I felt like Zack was winning, which means he needed to give Chaos something here in these 2 nights. So that was when I started to feel like this was going to be a defense. And they showed sportsmanship afterwards too, which I thought was interesting, that TMDK not going heel at all. You almost you almost see a little bit of affection for Fujita. Zack's not really
respect.
Yeah, Zack's not being a bad guy. It's an interesting dynamic right there. So, good stuff. And it led into the next match, which was the television title, the first one, the defense of Zack Sabre Jr. against Ishii. What fun this was. Ishii's one of my favorite guys, just subjectively to watch. I just enjoy his style. I like the way he works. I like the way he sells. And Zack is the best technical wrestler in the world, I think. Bryan Danielson's certainly a contender over there. So if you think it's Bryan, I won't argue with you. But for me, I like Zack, and a lot of technical wrestling early. And of course, Zack is wonderful at doing this and making the person he's working with look like he's on his level. The good news is Ishii damn near is.
Already is. I would say he's already on that level.
Yeah. So there was some really interesting stuff here. The preview tags showed us, and we mentioned it on the show, that it's all about working Zack's arm. He's going to work the hell out of Zack's arm, and he did in this match. The first 10 minutes was Ishii just trying to wear down Zack's arm. Even did a sliding clothesline to Zack's arm when he was kind of bracing his weight on it, putting his weight on his arm as he was trying to get up. Through the clothesline to the arm. Ishii tried an octopus move, which Zack tried to get out of, and they turned it into a destroyer, which I was like, what in the hell is that? I was not expecting an Ishii destroyer out of this one. They did a couple of real good pinning scrambles. Ishii tried to get his brain buster, and Zack rolled through it, and they went into one of those little pinning scrambles where everybody's shoulders are down one after the other. The genius of that, Jeremy, is that Zack wins a lot of his matches in those scrambles. So you buy it. You think, this could very well be the finish. And of course, you have the added dynamic of the clock, 15-minute time limit. It's a TV title, short time limit.
Coin flip.
And you're very, very cognizant of the time on this one. What did you think as you heard those time calls go 11, 12, 13. Did you think it was a draw, or did you think we were going to get the finish we got?
I kind of figured we were going to get the finish that we got. I look at these two and I'm like, if they have to hit a time cue, I'm not worried about these two hitting a time cue. And I guess it was 14 minutes and 38 seconds when the bell rang and the mat hit 3 from the referee. So they were doing a great job with the urgency towards that 15-minute mark. But I was never really in doubt. It's too early to do the coin flip. They really have to, if they're going to do it, they really need to sell it. And it needs to be a thing. It can't be cavalier. It can't be trivial. It can't be in his first title defense.
Yeah.
So
I
didn't have it in me to believe it.
Yeah. I think the coin flip was only for the tournament, because I think Chris Charlton mentioned that if this thing does go to the time limit, it's the champion retains, I think, didn't he?
I thought it was a coin flip. I think they mentioned that it was a coin flip. We're going to have to find that out, and someone's going to have to eat crow on that later on. Could be me, but I thought that the rules for this were coin flip decision if it ever hit 15. But man, Zack Sabre Jr. is a great pick to be the champion.
Yeah.
These are going to be the best 15 minutes that you're going to watch, and it's already free on New Japan World. So they're going to make it free on New Japan World and free on YouTube if you want to watch the TV title championships currently, defended by Zack Sabre Jr. Not all of the matches, only the TV title defenses.
The thing we mentioned about Zack being so good at making people look like they're on his level, that's going to come in very handy when some of the younger guys do start coming after this championship, because he's going to make them look world class, which is exactly what they need. Even if they don't beat Zack, there's no shame in losing to Zack. New Japan has established that he's one of the top guys. He's now a faction leader. It's all good. Losing to Zack does not hurt anyone, but looking like you're on his level for 12, 14 minutes, that's going to help some of these younger people, younger wrestlers, as they work their way up the ladder. He's an outstanding choice to hold this title. And when he does finally give it up to whoever that may be, it's going to be a real career opening win for them. It's going to be considered one of their first. They're coming out.
A resume maker.
Yeah. It's just a really smart idea to have this guy establish this championship as something worth fighting.
Having a guy like Ishii as one of his first defenses really elevates the title as well. Because those guys, they went hard.
This is why we love New Japan, because they think about stuff like that, and we're seeing some storylines in WWE right now that are absolutely on fire. This isn't just saying that New Japan is the only good stuff out there. AEW has strong stuff going and things, but just that trust we have that they're thinking about this stuff, and New Japan is one of the reasons why it's my personal favorite company going right now. And we weren't done. We had another match, and boy, we had another half hour to go, and man, it was fun. Hiromu Takahashi and Yo. Again, Hiromu Takahashi has his own show coming up. He's got his big junior heavyweight thing. So you go into this thinking, well, Yo's not going to win the title off him. And you go into this thinking, well, Yo's not really a main event guy, even though Hiromu has been working hard to put him over as such. Well, then they go out there and have a wonderful 29-minute, 42-second match. And these two really worked beautifully together. And going by what we said, where Yo needed to be established as a threat, they spent probably the first, 10, 12, maybe even 15 minutes of Yo working that knee and working the knee. And there was a long run of Yo just beating on Hiromu so that when it picked up, and it's going to pick up after that 20-minute mark or so, and they start kicking it into that extra gear, you really felt that, my God, you know what? Yo actually has a chance in this thing. And at 25 minutes, Hiromu was portraying this thing like he was barely holding on. He had taken an Ushigoroshi and a German suplex for a near fall. He was barely getting up on his feet. Then they started going for the big stuff, the direct drives, the time bombs and things. So tell us what you thought about this one, and if Yo stepped up as much as you think, as much as I think he did.
I absolutely think that Yo stepped up. I do think that when Lio Rush is healthy, we're going to have a kind of a three-way dance around the title and a feud between Yo and Lio Rush down the line. And this match made it clear to me and hopefully to everyone else that Yo really does belong in that main event scene for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Hiromu Takahashi is the best guy to be holding the title. He is the most high profile, talented, dynamic, all around, like 5-tool player, if you will, for wrestling. But Yo has been doing this for an incredibly long time. And we mentioned it earlier, this was his opportunity. If you were hungry and, like you wanted your opportunity, like, hey, give me that shot, give me the main event, I can step up to the plate. Like, he understood the assignment and he delivered thoroughly. I don't know if this was like a 5-star match, but it was, like, it's one of those matches that if someone, hey, tell me a good Yo match, or like, what was one of the best matches in his catalog, I would think of this match near the top. I don't know if it's recency bias, but it showed everything that you'd ever want to see about what Yo has as a wrestler, everything that he's learned, everything that he is, feels like it manifested itself in this match. And, catalog match for him. As for Hiromu, I kind of feel like it was another day at the office for him in some ways. But his part in this story was to take a beating, look like he took a beating, and scrape out a victory at the end. And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And Yo looked better for it. And Hiromu, did his job.
In November and December, we talked a lot about how Master Wato was put in a position where he needed to deliver, and if he did, he could really help his career and be seen as one of the top singles juniors. I feel like Yo was in a pretty precarious position here because if he didn't have a good match with Hiromu Takahashi, that spot was gone to Master Wato. It was done. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I think he needed
next man up.
Yeah, I mean, if when you saw Wato step up, and he has, and he had a really good Tokyo Dome match and a good performance in that match, even though he didn't win it, didn't have to, just needed to have a good performance. This put Yo in a spot where, geez, if I don't, they're just going to pick him whenever they need a guy from the Hantai Chaos side. So big one for him, keeps him in the mix. Congratulations to him. Enjoyed it. And like you said, I think if Lio Rush can give him that edge, either in a feud, if Lio turns on him, or as his partner, maybe both eventually, could be a big help to him, to somebody who is clearly physically talented, but needs to connect with the fans a little stronger than he has. So a good start to that. And I think he defended his position well from Master Wato. I don't think his opponent was the guy across from him in the ring in this one. He needed to watch out for that spot there, I think.
So I don't really know what Hiromu has on his plan, but he will have the 5th and the 6th. If he's still a champion on the 6th of March, he'll probably be in the New Japan Cup anniversary bracket. So he'll have some bracketing going on there. Yeah. That will leave April to May. May is best of the Super Juniors. If he's still champion, I would not be shocked if you either see Yo or Lio Rush as the champion or the winner of the best of the Super Juniors, and we kind of have a go round on this one again.
Yeah, that'd be fine. And I don't think Desperado is too far away from going back up there either. It's an interesting thing because something needs to be done for that big junior heavyweight festival that he's coming up with too. Mm-hmm. Now he's going to wrestle the guy from Noah for that's in the cards already. So that's one he might maybe. He might lose that one, and then it becomes a title match. There's ways. There are things that can keep Hiromu occupied in the next few months going until he gets to Super Juniors. But I'm betting that by the time he gets around to Super Juniors, he'll be the champion again. I don't know if they'll do a thing where he'll lose the title and then have to win Super Juniors to get it back. I feel like they're sticking with it.
I feel like he'll be defending, and then he'll be the challenge. When he'll lose at the best of the Super Junior final potentially, and then a match at Dominion for the title against the potential winner.
Feels
something like that. Yeah, just kind of in the orbit. So, all right, so let's talk what's next.
Well, then up next is we have a couple of Road to New Beginning shows in Tochigi and Nagano later on this week. Now, those are mostly preview tags and a few Young Lions singles matches on there. So house shows. Those are house shows. Now, the next big event, the one that we're going to be talking about next week, is the New Beginning in Osaka on the 11th. And boy, does this look good, Jeremy. It is sold out. In the building. They don't need anything else, man. These people are convinced that this is going to be a good show, a cheering crowd in Osaka. Before the pandemic, Osaka was where the raucous crowds were, so I hope it's like that again. That would be great. Some really intriguing matches on this one. We have, special singles matches. Master Wato against Taiji Ishimori. We've seen those two butting heads. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kenta is on this one. And we know what happened the last time. They damn near killed each other. And never open weight 6-man match. That has been announced that it's going to be a title match. So we'll have to find those belts that they've seemed to have lost there. Yujiro.
I hope they just pull the trigger and give him the title. Honestly,
yeah.
It would just be fun to just flash win, flash pin. I feel like there needs to be a title change of some sort. Either like some Wrestle Kingdom to now. And you know what? If it's this one, fuck it. Let's do it. Let's just have yeah.
Well, we'll get to that in a second because I'm going to roll a theory past you here in a little bit. Now, and it involves this next one: Hikuleo versus Jay White. Loser leaves Japan. Now, couple different ways this thing could go. Right? We know that there are plenty of rumors swirling around that just about everybody in the world is interested in Jay White. We know that WWE could very well be interested in Hikuleo. This could go either way. I mean, they might lose both of these guys, to be honest. I mean, it might end up happening. With this one, here's my thought on it. If Jay loses, Bullet Club tends to overthrow its leaders rather than have smooth transitions of power. It would be a stretch for Hikuleo to just beat Jay White. But if Bullet Club threw Jay White over the edge, if, say, Phantasmo or Evil or even Kenta, after a big win over Tanahashi, or Evil pissed off because he lost the tag team titles, or El Phantasmo, something like that, does something to help Hikuleo wins, not because they like Hikuleo, but because screw you, Jay. It's time to eat time for the king to go to be sent out to pasture here. Then Hikuleo might win, and that would of course tell us that New Japan isn't as confident about signing Jay long term, perhaps. On the other hand, they've mentioned these things about Goto going if Jay goes. Well, Geto's a New Japan booker. He's not leaving Japan. So that kind of pokes a little bit of a hole into that theory, too. I'm leaning toward Jay winning this one, but I'm only at about 60% here. Where are you?
Did you watch the backstage for the 5th? The backstage segment for the 5th?
Now, I'm working my way through that one. I haven't gotten all the way through it.
All right, so...
But I think I saw Jay's part of it, though. No, I saw Jay and Hikuleo's part of
it. Hikuleo, very passionate
yes.
in his promo. So here's the thing for me. I said it before. Jay is doing the work of two men in this feud to get this over. Hikuleo seems very checked out of this feud in general, which I believe may be a bit of a tell. So for me, if Jay is putting over Hikuleo and I'm going to take this guy out, or this guy is dangerous, blah, 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 blah. When Jay wins, it makes Jay seem bigger for talking up this guy that he just took out.
Sure.
So I still lean towards Jay is contracted until 2025. And then he's doing what he does every year, which is he loses big, and then he keeps people's names in his mouth that has nothing to do with the losing big at Wrestle Kingdom. So with all the disparate factors, I kind of think Hikuleo is going to be doing the loser leaves Japan gimmick. I also have to take into mind that Jay's already got a match on the 18th, as if nothing's wrong with Eddie Kingston and San Jose. So it's just it feels like another day at the office. I keep using that phrase today, but for Jay White, it's just business as usual. And I feel like the work that he's doing extra to make this seem like a big deal tells me that he's committed to New Japan because he wants the business to be good.
Well, you might have just knocked my confidence level up a few notches there from 60% there, because you're making some excellent points about that. And again, Ghetto's not going anyplace. So, and that would also fall into the overall. It would just fit into the event, because I don't think Tama Tonga is going to lose to El Phantasmo. So if Bullet Club gets that they keep Jay White, that's their big victory for the night. But Tama Tonga is still a problem for them, because I think he'll defend the title against ELP, because I don't think they're going to want to change that so quickly. Not saying that the ELP will never hold it. I bet he does, and probably this year. But but just maybe not here.
There were so many optics about the irons and the fire. If Jay loses and ELP wins, does ELP usurp Jay White, the former world title holder, because ELP now has the Never title and everyone's behind him as the Never title, and now he is the leader of Bullet Club with this, highly respected title that's not the world title? Do you see ELP versus Okada as being like a credible feud? So
not yet, right?
Thinking about pulling that thread and thinking about down the line of is it really time to be doing the Jay White is out of here and it's ELP's time to shine? Maybe it is. Maybe ELP has stuff that we are completely unprepared for. Maybe it's not even ELP. Maybe it's Kenta.
Mm-hmm. I just hope I hope it's Jay White, because I think he's the best heel in the world, and I want him in New Japan where I can watch him.
Have him here, have him be able to go to AEW and Impact and Ring of Honor and all the other things. But Jay White being Jay White in the wrestling world is a benefit to everybody.
I agree. I think he's one of the most talented there is. And then, of course, the main event of this one, Kazuchika Okada versus Shingo Takagi for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. I think both of us feel strongly that this is a defense, a successful defense for Okada, especially going into the whole Noah feud right there. I don't think they're going to switch this one out. And I think they understand that if everyone kind of knows that, and I think everybody does know that, well, put Shingo Takagi in there, and at least we know we're going to get a fantastic match.
Yeah, Shingo's doing everything in his power to convince me that he is going to win this match in the way that Hikuleo did not convince me that he was going to win this match. He comes out there and he talks in the backstage segment about the disrespect of being the King of Pro Wrestling title holder rather than a belt champion. There are hints of disrespect that he's I'm going to correct you all about who I am. And I just love watching Shingo Takagi talk down to everybody. He is a character, and if it's not going to be Naito and it's not going to be Will Ospreay, give me a Shingo Takagi versus Okada match any day of the week.
Fair enough. So we will keep an eye on that, and of course, we're going to have full coverage of that on this show next week. And I'm really fired up about that card. I think it's top to bottom. It's going to be pretty good. So there's one person that's not going to be on it. Well, there are a lot of people that aren't going to be on it, aren't there? But there's one that's not going to be on it. This past week, made official what we all knew. Kota Ibushi has left New Japan Pro Wrestling. I wish I knew what went wrong here, because he signed on with the company, allegedly a lifetime deal. Obviously it wasn't, but I mean, they said that they were committed to one another, and then it all just went sour after his injury in that G1 finals match against Okada. Somewhere in there, the communication breakdown between this man and the company just left a rift that neither side could repair. And instead of seeing him being part of this post-pandemic cheering crowd, getting to see those matchups again in New Japan rings, he is leaving and appearing for GCW, which Garbage Championship Wrestling. And
you said the quiet part out loud.
they do so much stupid shit on those shows.
I've been to their shows. It is not my cup of tea.
Yeah, it's not mine. It's not mine either. That's subjective. If you like it,
but I understand why people enjoy it. It's just not for me.
And so he's going to be there. He's going to be with somebody else too. Who is it? Oh, Bloodsport. He's going to do Bloodsport. That is intriguing. That's intriguing.
Kota Ibushi and Speedball Mike Bailey.
For years and years, Kota Ibushi was a free agent longer than he was more successful as a free agent than a lot of guys were with contracts. He spent a long time just booking himself in DDT and in Dragon's Gate and in New Japan quite a bit. I mean, New Japan, without a contract, put the title on him, the junior heavyweight title on him at various points, and it worked, as opposed to the Carl Anderson fiasco. But it's a situation where he's done this before. So for a little while anyway, we'll only see Kota Ibushi exactly as much as he wants to be seen. And he'll just work the dates he wants to. But it does feel like he's going to turn up for a major promotion pretty soon, and I think we all know which one it is. If he's not in New Japan, he's in AEW. Am I right?
I feel like, yes. I feel like there are going to be asterisks to that. Like, he can't be on every show. Maybe maybe we won't get him on Forbidden Door, unfortunately.
That one's going to be a little politically tricky, isn't it?
There's going to be some politics to it, and so he's announced he's going to be on GCW and Bloodsport. He's announced he's opening his own school, and he's made it clear that he's going to talk to AEW at some point once he gets his camp settled, his school settled, and all this stuff. I'm with you on a Double or Nothing or a Revolution, a major pay-per-view. He just shows up. Does he do it at the pay-per-view right before Forbidden Door and then not on Forbidden Door? Maybe that's a minefield that you don't want to cross. But sooner rather than later, everything is meant to, tamp down the smoke a little bit, that it's going to happen right away. And I think that's deliberate. I think that there's probably a reality that if he shows up, it'll be immediate and shocking. And if he doesn't, it's going to be a while, but he will be there either way. The GCWs and the Bloodsport and the indie wrestling spots, those will satisfy a number of people who just want to see Kota Ibushi ply his craft. I want to see Kota Ibushi in big matches for big promotions, in big time situations that matter and feel like it is the most important thing that's happening on that day. It is very few and far between that independent promotions are able to elicit that level of relevance for me personally. So, if it's what he wants to do after a number of years off due to injury and or the personal reasons that he has justified, okay. But I hope that for my own personal benefit, selfishly, that I get to see him in a big time promotion, in big time matches that feel like it is that way or the highway in terms of consequence.
I am not tired at all of Kota Ibushi in New Japan. I would love to see him back.
Yep.
His matches against Naito were thrilling. He and Jay White had one at the Tokyo Dome, one of the better matches of the era. He and Okada, magic together. All of those matchups we've seen before, and they're wonderful, and I'd be happy to see them again. If he turns up in AEW, we could get Ibushi versus Claudio. We could get Ibushi and Bryan Danielson. We could get the goal. Well, certainly that. But the interesting matchup, he and Pac, there's so many things that Darby Allin that would be very interesting with Kota Ibushi and Orange Cassidy. Hell, we saw what Orange did with Will Ospreay. There is a freshness to that I do find a little bit exciting. If it can't be New Japan due to bad feelings on his side for sure, perhaps the company too, because he had bad feelings toward them and it's all gotten all ugly now. There is an awful lot of potential for really exciting programs and matches in AEW that I would absolutely sign up to see that we haven't seen before. We know what he can do in New Japan, and one of the quickest ways to be wrong when looking at professional wrestling is using words like always and never.
Mm-hmm.
Things could change. He could come back to New Japan. This could work out, and we may see him back. But if he does a year in AEW and just hits all those really cool points with some of the talent they have, it might work out okay for everybody.
Yeah, if the fences can mend and everyone is able to cooperate with each other, and he is allowed to work alongside New Japan talent as a member of the AEW roster, I think that would probably be the most ideal situation for all involved. But as cooperative as people can be in the world of wrestling, they can also be incredibly petty. So, it just depends on, the mood the way the wind is blowing that day and how everybody's feeling and who said what and whose noses are out of joint. Because that's really what it comes down to in the wrestling world is who pissed off who and why can't this happen now?
Plenty of that. We run into plenty of that.
Oh.
New Japan Strong going to put together a school. Jeremy, what do you know about this?
So they have a dojo in LA. They're going to have an advanced course, and they're going to have a beginner's course. It's going to be $2,400 with a $200 discount if you pay it all up front. But hey, check this out. March 27th to June 22nd, you got like 2 to 3 sessions a week. The beginner's link is the DKC and Bateman coaching you. And then if you do the advanced course for this, if you really want to get into New Japan, it's got Kushida and Fred Rosser. Now, the Fred Rosser thing I thought was really interesting because I didn't know he was a coach. And it makes me think that maybe he won't be holding that strong title for very much longer because, well, it's starting to feel like that time. And if he's doing this instead, it might seem like he's got enough on his plate that maybe he won't be defending that title come the events of Capital Collision and Battle in the Valley.
Well, you never know, because the one thing about the way Strong is going is that it's similar to before. It's just going to be about one taping a month that they're going to break up into the 4 shows. So
not even that.
So
I did the thing last week. So they have the Battle in the Valley, and then that's going to go. They're going to break it up into episodes, but there's nothing in April because Capital Collision is in April, and they're going to do that in May. So there are going to be gaps in the schedule. There's no longer the Strong taping. It's just going to be the Strong live and then Strong on demand, which you're not going to be able to watch these shows on New Japan World when they air. You have to buy it on Fight, and then it'll be the following month will be segmented releases, much like they do with Access. They did the Wrestle Kingdom, and now the episodes air on Access every week until they finish the Wrestle Kingdom. It's just
what I'm saying is
make sure.
No, if he's working on this this school thing, he only has to work one show a month in order to be on New Japan Strong as the champion every week.
True.
So it's interesting. It leaves the door open.
Definitely a change in the Strong business pattern, with the training at the LA dojo, with the shows, they're focusing on quality instead of quantity with these shows. I know that you and I, it would frequently make the cut or not make the cut. It was at the cusp of our shows and talking about Strong because, when there's so much to talk about and we got, 90 minutes to cover everything, sometimes things just don't make the cut. So, it feels like there's going to be new shows, quality, and cost prohibitive is the thing that they're trying to avoid. They're just trying to make sure that people can watch these shows. And if you can't watch it right away, that eventually you have an easy access to watch it.
So with that in mind, after this New Beginning, we have Fantastica Mania coming to New Japan. That's off in the future, and we'll be getting into it more and more as the dates approach. But Fantastica Mania is the tour they do. They were doing it every year before the pandemic, and the pandemic squished it for a little while. It's back, and it involves the CMLL stars. So, of course, New Japan works with several promotions around the world, and CMLL in Mexico is one of them. So the Lucha Libre stars will be invading for a brief tour that will culminate with 2 nights at Korakuen Hall. Some exciting names on this one, Jeremy. We have, if you're a CMLL fan at all, some of these guys are going to jump out at you because they have some of their bigger stars. Ray Komeda, Dolce Gardenia, who is an Exotico. We've seen him before. The Exotico, the tradition of Exoticos, the flamboyant, let's say, characters that play into some of the more comedic stereotypes and things. So it's difficult because if you just explain what this is, it sounds derogatory, and it's really not the way they do it. You got to see Dolce Gardenia. You'll get an idea. It's not. He's not making fun of gay stereotypes. It's really not. It's just a kind of a flamboyant.
Everybody's in on the joke.
Over the top melodrama thing. Yeah. And I'm not going to do a good job explaining it, except it's the tradition in Mexico, the Exotico role. A lot of companies have a guy kind of playing that type of part. and he does it better than a lot of them. In fact, they had a thing where he was kind of crushing on Shingo Takagi in the 2019 tour, and spent the entire tour trying to plant a kiss on Shingo, and finally did. Titan is going to be there, of course. He's coming back in. He's working with LIJ. Magia Blanca, Volador Jr., he was fantastic. And boy, did he just have an incredible match with New Japan's own Rocky Romero in Arena Mexico. That was wonderful.
People are talking about that match, man. We got to talk
great.
about that match. Maybe we'll cover that next week.
Yeah, that's on YouTube. You should go see it. Atlantis.
I knew I was forgetting something to talk about. I haven't watched that yet.
Atlantis Jr. is going to be on there. Of course, his father, one of the all-time legends of Mexican wrestling right there. And the last time he was at Fantastica Mania, he was a kid just starting out, and he's really blossomed. This talented guy. Ultimo Guerrero, who's also a legend, been around forever and still wrestles at a high level. Soberano Jr., Captain Cecida. Hijo del Villano. This name is a mouthful. Hijo del Villano Tercera. That's the son of Villano number 3, who is one of the who's also a legend in Mexico. Okamura, who is a Japanese wrestler who went on an excursion and never came back. He just liked it so much in Mexico. He's been there ever since. It's actually very true. Barbaro Cavernario, guy does kind of a Flintstones gimmick, but he's really good. Templario,
heard a lot of good things about that guy.
He's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It just comes out basically a Fred Flintstone loincloth and is like a caveman, but a good wrestler, by the way. Just he's a really good wrestler. Templario, Hechicero, and Mystico, who's he's had an interesting journey, and we're going to get into that in a second. They're going to be an odd couples tag team tournament as part of this tour, so there's going to be some people who would normally be enemies teaming with each other. Mexico likes to do that every once in a while. That's something CMLL likes to do, the odd couples type of team. Titan will face Soberano Jr. for the CMLL welterweight title. Titan's the current champion. I got to think, since he is a New Japan, not regular, but occasioner, comes in for tours, that I think Titan will be made to look strong right there and probably a successful defense. And then we will also see Mystico against Atlantis Jr. In a lot of these things are the Mexican wrestlers facing the New Japan guys, but we do have a couple of matches where it's Lucha Libre versus Lucha Libre. Mystico, that's what I'm getting into, facing Atlantis Jr. Now, this is going to be confusing. Stay with me on this one. So Mystico was Mystico in Mexico in the aughts and was one of the top draws that they had seen in quite some time. I mean, packing arenas. This guy was red hot as a major star in Mexico and in Arena Mexico and throughout Puebla and other city names that are difficult to pronounce. And I'm not going to butcher them here on the air, but throughout the tours that CML would do. Well, WWE saw this and thought, this guy's going to be great for the Latin American market. We're going to get him. And they did. So they got him, and they brought him in as the original Sin Cara. So the first Sin Cara, there have been 2 different Sin Caras. And so they brought Mystico in as Sin Cara. So while he was being Sin Cara, CMLL decided we need Mystico. So they got another guy and put him in a Mystico mask. So that's this right here. I'm holding it. I just bought this actually in Mexico this past month. There's the Mystico mask. So they said, we need one of these. Doggone it. This guy sells merchandise. Now there's nobody in the hood. So they got one. And they got a new guy to be Mystico. So now there's a new Mystico. And he's actually the brother of Dragon Lee, brother of Roosh, part of that family. The new Mystico. Well, things didn't go great with WWE, as we know, with Sin Cara. Never really took off. People didn't like his attitude when he first got up there because he presented himself as he was, which is, I'm the biggest star in my company, so I'm going to be a big star here. Didn't necessarily adapt to the style perfectly. And of course, WWE doesn't want you to do what you do well. They want you to do what they want you to do. So instead of having him wrestle as one of the most charismatic luchadors, they had him wrestle like a WWE guy. Didn't pan out. He leaves. WWE says, well, we need a Sin Cara now. So they got a new guy to be Sin Cara, but never mind that. So he goes back to Mexico. But there's already a Mystico. So what do? He took the name of Caristico, which is a mix of Mystico and Sin Cara, Caristico. So now there's Mystico and Caristico, and sometimes they team together, and they got along. Sometimes they fought. Over the years things happen, right?
Tweedledum.
Yeah, we have Mystico and Caristico. And they were both very, very good. You know, that's the thing. So he's there. And then Mystico, the second one, the one that's related to Roosh, the one that's related, he leaves CMLL. And just goes away. And of course, once you leave CMLL, you are persona non grata. They're very, if you go and work for AAA, especially mortal enemy of CMLL, you're dead to them. All right. So they said, well, we still need a Mystico. So Caristico stops being Caristico and goes back to being Mystico.
Sure.
So what we're seeing here is a guy that was Mystico in the odds, then he was Sin Cara, then he was Caristico, and now he's Mystico again. Now there's the guy that used to be Mystico, the second Mystico is now somebody else and working for AAA. And there's another guy, the Sin Cara, but he's been kicked out of WWE too, and he's nowhere. So there's two Sin Caras. I'm losing track of how many Mysticos there are. And there's the point being, this is the guy from the odds that's still Mystico, and he's back being Mystico. He's very, very good. He's going to be wrestling Atlantis Jr. on this tour. So that's the weaving history of the character of Mystico as it works its way through history. So that's what we're in for there.
You forgot about the partridge in the pear tree.
The partridge in the pear tree. You're right, I did. Yeah. So, boy, I tell you what. Once you get a mask that sells, boy, you can't get them off of it, can you?
Yeah. So there's two matches that have been added to Battle in the Valley.
Let's hear it.
Versus Fred Rosser for the strong openweight title. And Zack Sabre Jr. has announced an open challenge for the show as well. So we might get a little 15-minute sprint. I kind of think it'll be a local talent, something like that. Maybe somebody who could step up to the plate on that. But
any
we
thoughts
already
on
have
that?
one. No, because we already have Okada has an open challenge. Like, he doesn't have an announced challenger either. Okada or Shingo. Like,
right.
Yes, but Okada doesn't have a challenger. Sabre Jr. doesn't have a challenger. I think they have challengers already lined up. It's all figured out, but that's where we're at right now. So that's all the news that's fit to print that I could think of this week. You got anything more?
No, I think that about covers things. And like I mentioned, we're going to be back here with any new details that comes in on New Japan news, and we will have a full breakdown of what should be a wonderful new beginning in Osaka on the 11th. So you can see our socials.
That, and we'll preview Battle of the Valley next week, and that'll pretty much be
a lot of cool events. I mean, there really are. This is a fun time with New Japan. They've spread these interesting events out very nicely to the point that they're really every week there's something to look forward to. Each weekend has something special, because that battle in the Valley, of course, has Mercedes Moné, her first match with the company against Kyrie, which should be very, very interesting. And there's going to be other Eddie Kingston and Jay White. I'm in on that. So a lot of fun stuff.
Maybe we'll find out when Kenny's wrestling.
Maybe we will. And if only we had someone on this show that's going to have a great seat for that thing. I'm
taking pictures, man. I'm going to be uploading my own pictures that week.
How cool is that going to be, man? How excited are you?
Looking forward to it. I've been in that building a couple of times. I'm actually going the night before. I'm going to go watch Who's Live. Whose Line Is It Anyways live? It's my Valentine's Day date with my wife. So I'm going to be at the San Jose Civic 2 nights in a row on the 17th and the 18th. So I'm going to set up a cot. It'd be great.
So, Jeremy, for the folks that are listening and can't see you, tell them about your socials. Anything else you want to plug?
You can find me at Jer Finestone. I am the co-host of this show, Speaking of Strong Style. Every so often, I will do a show called Parallel Earth with JD Oliva from Brace for Impact. And I also do all the YouTube videos for Fight Game Media. If you ever want to talk to me, I don't know why, but you can find me at Jer Finestone on YouTube, on Twitter.
And I am at Steven Conway, and my history website is ringsidereplay.com. So with that in mind, we're going to sign off this week for Speaking of Strong Style, and we look forward to being back next week. We'll see you very soon with more coverage of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Until then, take care. We'll see you soon.